Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Quinn, and I'm flying solo today. And what I'm going to do is do a short podcast giving my thoughts on last night's 2-each draw with Leeds United. So I've written down a bunch of takeaways from the game. And one very, very obvious takeaway is that Fred is just not a CDM. Once again, he struggled in that position. He was a disaster, probably the worst player on the pitch. Giving the ball away when he's under pressure, giving the ball away when he's not under pressure, and his shooting was very, very tame also. So a poor game from him, and also a poor game from Dallo. I know don't want to be too harsh on him because it's his first game back. I know he got the assist, but overall I thought he was very poor defensively in his one-on-one defending, and also poor in terms of his attacking output. I think one of his crosses just went over everybody and out for a goal kick. So a dreadful night for him. I think United in general were really poor in the first half. Didn't really get going until Rashford got that equaliser. And then we really put pressure on them, got the substitutes on. I'm probably unfortunate not to get the winner in the end. But ultimately the damage was done in the first half. Giving a goal away inside about 30 seconds. Then Varane was unfortunate to score an own goal, but Leeds deserved to be 2-0 up. They were all over us. They were pressing us. We just couldn't get out, and they were surrounding us. Our best players just couldn't get any time or space on the ball. But ultimately, I think Leeds tired in the second half. We got the substitutes on, Pelestri and Sancho, and we managed to change the game. Salah was a draw out of it, but didn't get the victory that we expected at the start of the night. Now, to be honest with you, after 50 minutes, I would have taken a 2-each draw. But by 70 minutes, I was hoping for the win. So I was disappointed with the draw in the end. Another obvious takeaway is that Weghorst was just not. He was out of kilter with the rest of the side. He only had 19 touches. I think Weghorst, I like the guy. His link-up play has been excellent in many of the games, but last night exposed that he's just not a world-class centre forward, and we're really missing that at the moment. He's a very average player, and he's been asked to play too many games due to Martial's constant injury problems. So he's definitely not a long-term solution. I have, in terms of, before we get on to the positives, I'm going to talk about Garnacho. He had a very poor game. His finishing wasn't great. He was getting dispossessed a lot. Leeds did well to marshal him. But he's a young player. He's only 18, so you've got to expect that he's going to have off days. There's an overreaction on Twitter that Garnacho is overrated. He's not all that. He's going to be another Januzaj. But that's not true. When you're 18, you're going to have good days and bad days. And unfortunately for him, it was when he was given a rare start that it didn't work out for him. So maybe for now, he should just be the impact sub last 20 minutes. Look, he's had so many impacts from the bench, and the standout one being the Manchester City game. So he should probably drop out in the next game. But I'll get on to my team for the reverse fixture in a second. I think United's man of the match last night was probably Luke Shaw. He was brilliant, particularly in the second half. His attacking play was fantastic. And had his part to play in the goals. I also thought that, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Giananto, the Leeds left winger, but he was probably the man of the match overall. Shaw probably my man of the match in terms of United. I know some people might say Sancho, and that's fair enough. But in fairness, overall, the man of the match is probably Giannato for Leeds. He's a very tricky winger, and is always very busy, putting opponents under pressure, pressing Dallo and so on, and really making life difficult for us. I thought Leeds, to be honest, brought a lot of gamesmanship to the arena last night. I mean, they were diving quite a bit. They were faking injury. It seemed. The amount of time Leeds players were on the ground led to like overall 13 minutes of stoppage time. And they're doing a lot of time wasting as well. But I suppose you've got to expect that from a side at 17th in the league playing against one of the teams in the top three. But I really have loved to have got the 3 points against them after all their shenanigans last night. And I heard there was some Munich chants from the Leeds away end, which does not surprise me at all. I mean, I predicted it on the last podcast. Yeah, there's some very bad-hearted people among their supporters. So the obvious misses last night were Casemiro. Uh, I mean, if Sabitzer, I don't want to be too critical of him. I thought he saw some nice touches, but you could see he wasn't on the same wavelength of the other players. You know, he's only just come in, and to be partnering Fred in midfield, he's basically been asked to play the role of two men. For sake, Fred was horrendous, and yeah, Fred just he picked last night to have one of his infamous stinkers, when we least needed it. When we have Casemiro, Ericsson, and McTominay out injured, Casemiro having to play that CDM role, and he was appalling. Because you know when Fred's put under pressure, his first touch can let him down, and he can give it away. Even when he was in space, he was giving the ball away, and Dallo done that as well. It was led to a big chance for Newcastle. It was a penalty shout. I think it was Somerville went down under a supposed challenge from Martinez, but that wasn't a foul in a million years, despite what some Leeds fans are saying online. Yeah, but I also think McTominay was possibly a miss last night. I know regular listeners will know that I'm not a huge fan of Scott McTominay, but he's like Leeds' kryptonite. You know, he's had so many good games against Leeds, no more so than the 6-2 where he scored twice inside the first 3 minutes. He just tends to have a good game against them. He's got their number. I mean, missed having that option last night. McTominay certainly puts himself about, and there was a few United players putting themselves about last night. A lot of complaints from the Leeds fans about Martinez's heavy tackling, and there's one tackle on uh, Ganato. I think Martinez lucky he got the ball because the follow through just took Ganato straight out. And then he was being accused of like swiping a leg at Bamford's face. I'm not so sure about that one. Yeah, so the positives from last night is definitely the return of Jadon Sancho and scoring on his return, which I was absolutely delighted with. And he had a few lovely bits of play, but he set up Fred beautifully, taking on a defender, beating the defender, crossing the ball with his left foot, and Fred again with another very team effort. Why couldn't have fallen to anyone else other than Fred in that position? It's great to see Sancho using his left foot the same way Rashford has done. And by the way, Rashford with a textbook header, just like the lawman, straight down, headed it down into the corner, and that's just absolute perfection when it comes to heading. Is Rashford now the complete centre forward? He's certainly getting better and better, and adding more skills to his locker. I mean, uh, his heading has improved, the use of his left foot has improved, his finishing has improved immensely. And I'm so pleased with Rashford. He's on 20 goals this season. It looks like he's going to get 30 plus now. I think the only thing I think he needs to add now is, just, as someone commented to me on Twitter, is that he needs to start scoring more braces on the odd hat trick. I think he's only got one brace this season. I think was that against Charlton in the Carabao Cup, and only one hat trick in his United career. I think against RB Leipzig in 2020. So I'd love to see him score, extra goals in games now and really make himself a match winner. So yeah, in terms of the reverse fixture, I'm expecting a few changes. Ten Hag has already said that he's going to have to change his team talk for that one. You could make the argument United just they weren't up for it from the first whistle last night. They were caught cold. Leeds looked up for it from the start. I always thought that Leeds would run out of steam given the high intensity that they were playing with in the first half, and they did. We can't go 2-0 down to many teams, or we're not going to get away with it. So the changes that I would make at the weekend would probably bring Wan-Bissaka back in for Dallo. Dallo was well short of it last night. It could be down to lack of match fitness, hopefully Wan-Bissaka can recover from his illness and slot straight back in and make life more difficult for Janato. As you know, Wan-Bissaka is a superb one-on-one defender. So it'll be interesting to battle that one on Sunday if Wan-Bissaka does come back in. Um, um, in terms of midfield, we haven't got many options. We're going to have to stick with Zabitzer and Fred, and hopefully Fred can have a better game. He's a total enigma, isn't he? You just never know what you're going to get from him. Up front, though, I would probably drop out Waghurst and bring in Sancho. I would play Sancho on the left, Rashford up top, and then Anthony probably. Hopefully, he's fit and he can come in on the right hand side. If not, I would consider playing Pellistri. It doesn't look as if Garnacho favours that position on the right hand side, but we'll wait and see. So yeah, the front three I would go with is Anthony or Pellistri. If the man's going to be bold enough to play an experienced player like Pellistri in this game, I'd be all for it. So realistically, though, I would go for Anthony, Rashford, and Sancho as my front three at the weekend. And obviously, like I said earlier, change the right fullback, and that's the team I'd probably go with. And we need to be up for this from the first whistle. Now it's going to be an away game with the crowd are against us, very very hostile crowd. You know, Leeds can't stand us, and they'll be desperate to take 4 points in these two games. So we need to score first on Sunday, in my opinion. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves with a mountain to climb. So in terms of the player ratings, last night I'll go for David De Gea. I would probably give him a 5 for his performance. Dallo would definitely be a 3. Varane a 5. Martinez a 7. Who was excellent once again. Not just with his defending, his distribution is just unbelievable. Luke Shaw was my man of the match. I give him an 8 for last night. Fred was a disaster, like I said, so he probably gets a 3. Sabitzer, he was decent, but literally having to play the role of two men. So yeah, a 5 for him. Garnacho, very poor game from him, a 4. Bruno, very up and down as always. He gave the ball away that's led to the opening goal. And he did that in Palace away, which led to Casemiro's disastrous yellow card to see him miss the Arsenal game. So Bruno, yeah, only a 5 for him. Marcus Rashford, a superb header, so I give him a 7. Vikors probably a 4. It wasn't a great performance. So in terms of the substitutes, Sancho scores high for his impact, massive impact. Great to see. Sancho gets an 8 for me for his impact. Pellistri looked decent, some nice touches when he came on. Didn't get on the ball as much as hoped. I give him a 6. Trevor Malacia having to come on as an unorthodox right back. 6 for him, a 6 for Lindelof, who come on to play as a midfielder. Imagine you're chasing the game and you're playing a midfield of Fred and Lindelof and a left-footed player right back. It was far from ideal and just shows you how depleted our squad is at the moment with injuries and suspensions. But we very nearly got the winner. We were just unlucky at the end. But had we been more clinical in the first half, maybe it wouldn't have come down to this. We did have the chances that we didn't take. Garnacho was guilty of not taking chances, and Fred quite a few times in the match. We made it difficult for ourselves. We were caught cold last night. A lot of people on social media, including myself, were kind of mocking Chris Armas and Ted Lasso, that we're going to be playing against a team managed by him. And we see him as kind of a joke figure, but him and his two other coaches had Leeds well up for it last night. So fair play to them, and they proved a few people wrong. But we need to be extra motivated now for the second game, and we need to win that to keep our place at third in the Premier League table. So we were lackluster for the first 50 minutes last night, and we can't be doing that at Allen Road, or we could find ourselves 2 or 3 down inside the first half. So yeah, I'm hoping for an improved performance. I'm hoping for the the players to be up for it from the first whistle and hopefully get the first goal. The first goal is crucial, and hopefully we can do that. Um, Ten Hag, his player rating, there's not really much he can do at the moment. He experimented really with playing Rashford on the right, to allow Garnacho to come in with Anthony not being available. It did work. That's another point. I don't want to see Rashford on the right ever again. I think I've said this before. I think it's worked about twice. Um, and one of those is probably for England. So it's not Rashford. He can play centre forward and he can play left wing. He's absolute world class left winger at the moment, and up front, he's superb as well. I can really do that role, especially now that he's scoring headers. So wonderful to see. But on the right, you're basically wasting Rashford. All the only thing he's really doing that role is tracking back and stopping the Leeds left back, getting forward. Um, but he's totally ineffective on that side. It just doesn't suit his game at all. So so at the weekend, I'd love to see him play up front because I think Weghorst has played too many games due to Martial's injuries, and it's asking a bit much from a player. He's just not United quality. He's here to do a job on loan because of the lack of spending from the owners, but it's not working out at the moment. And he would have loved that cross from Dallo that Rashford got, but he has got that kind of service in recent games, and his headers have been saved or hit the post, which he just wasn't quite as accurate with Rashford with his headers. So yeah, Rashford up front, Sancho on the left for me, and Anthony or Palestri on the right, and depending on Anthony's fitness. So yeah, let's hope we get the 3 points on Sunday 2 o'clock. I think the kickoff is, and hopefully we can do much better that day. So more news on the potential ownership today, been coming out on Twitter, all the news pages have been posting up the stuff that come from Bloomberg and other sources. Jim Radcliffe, it seems, is he's going to get a commercial bank to help with his buyout. It seems as if it says here, banks including Goldman Sachs are ready to back a takeover from Sir Jim. If an offer is made, the banks will cover the value of MUFC's existing debt, with amounts to around $800 million. This is according to Bloomberg. So after reading the article, it seems as if that the bank, the Glazers currently leverage the debt against the club, but according to Bloomberg, the plan from Jim Radcliffe is to leverage the debt against his own company, Ineos. So Ineos will be liable rather than United, and that's obviously much better than the current situation. I didn't think that he'd be getting help from commercial banks. I thought he'd be able to afford to take over himself, but it looks as if he's looking for a consortium to join in. But as long as the debt is not leveraged against the club, that's perfect, because then he owns the debt or his company owns the debt. It seems as if the speculation involving Qatar is not going away. Private investors linked to the Qatari royal family are considering a bid. That's according to Sky Sports. Multiple parties in Saudi Arabia, which do not include the owners of Newcastle, have been given access to the finances. They're going through the Rain Group, all the parties who want to take over. So everyone will have their preference. There are people who want to have Qatar investors or Saudi Arabian investors coming in because they have unlimited funds. And some fans would rather have Sir Jim take over because he's a local guy, a United fan, and because of that, people automatically assume they'll have the club's best interests at heart. Like Jack Walker at Blackburn Rovers when he won the league there and pumped all his life earnings into it. So it remains to be seen. I think we're getting closer and closer to finding out who the owners are going to be. And one more piece of news today was a new contract for Kobe Manu. He didn't get on last night. I didn't think so in a game of that importance. Maybe he'd feature as a substitute in some cup games coming up, and maybe start some league games if we really need him. If there's one more injury in midfield, he's going to have to play. He's an exciting talent for sure, but still very raw at the moment, Kobe Manu. and a lot of development to go. But the people inside the club rate him very highly, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. And the fact that he's ahead of Zidane Iqbal in the pecking order shows that Ten Hag is a huge fan of the player. So I expect him to get more minutes between now and the end of the season, but not many starts probably until at least next season. So I'll wrap up my short podcast there. If everyone could please smash a like on the video, get your comments in down below, and subscribe to the channel, as Fabrizio Romano would say. And I will see everybody again on Sunday for the post Leeds away show. So see you later.